Hello and welcome back to Work on a Super Yacht, where today we're going to be dealing with the removal and prevention of hard watermarks. It's Christmas, so I've got a tree, and we're going to be using two products. One that you may not have heard of, Clin'Azur's 210 calcium stain remover for glass, and one that you may have heard of, Rain-X water repellent. The main problem areas for us here on this yacht are the bridge deck sides, the master side windows and the portholes. Why? Simply because we can't get easy access to these windows all of the time. Indeed, when the yacht is underway, we can't access them at all. This means that any saltwater spray, any water that we rinse down with our hoses or any rainwater can just stick onto the surface of the glass, and then over time, it gets baked on by the sun, which is made even worse by the fact that these windows are actually tinted. The darker colour of them means that they absorb a lot of heat, and so all of these water spots just get baked on, and in time they actually get etched onto the glass, and it's really very difficult to get them off. Happily, I was recently recommended this product, and I'm very happy to report that it actually works. A wonder product that works. Fantastic. For those of you who haven't heard of Clin'Azur before, they make a huge range of professional cleaning products for yachts. Each one has a number, 210 in this case. Each one has a name, calcium stain remover for glass. To be clear, this video is not sponsored by Clin'Azur, sad face. Rather, I was recommended the product, I bought the product, I like the product, so I'm telling you about the product. So, what exactly have we got here? Well, it comes in a powder form. This is a 500-gram tub. I checked the technical data sheet just to see what it was all about. It contains something called rare earth. Very interesting. Had to check out what rare earth is. It actually refers to a series of chemical elements that have a wide range of applications and that, despite their name, aren't necessarily actually that rare. Cerium is one of them. I highly suspect it is contained within this little pot and is actually more abundant than copper. Anyway, for the price we paid, I should think that it would have rare earth in it. This little tub was about 150 euros all up. Even by yachting standards, that's actually quite expensive. But in fairness, I've made it go quite far already. I'm hoping to get most of the yacht done with it. Time will tell if I can. I'm going to start by showing you how to apply this stuff, and then we'll move on to the Rain-X, the protector, and I'll tell you a little bit more about how this works and why I'm using it for this application. Okay then, so for the purposes of this video, I'm not going to use it on a hard to reach place, but rather this crew door here. It's easy to reach, but it is exposed to the weather from the top of the stairwell, so it often does get the rain, the water running down it, and in time, calcium marks can build up. You can see if I spray it with a bit of water, that although the water runs off, it is still sitting in places, and as I say, in time, that can just build up those mineral deposits and eventually etch the glass. Okay then, so onto the Clin'Azur 210, and I'm going to mix it up in this little bowl. All you need to do is add water, and then you can apply using either a sponge by hand, which is what I'm going to do, or you could use a polishing machine with a sponge pad, but you must ensure that you set it to a low speed of rotation. The instructions don't give quantities on powder and water, but they do say that you must mix it into a homogeneous paste. I think it would be safe to say that the more powder you use, the more aggressive that the solution is. And because I've just been trying to get to know the product, and I don't want to use more paste than I need to, as I say, it costs 150 euros for the pot, I've just been experimenting. And I found that more of a thick, milky substance has been hitting the mark. I shall spoon it out using this little fella, left over from somebody's protein powder. Not mine, of course, but watch this space. I want to get in shape over the winter. Now, some of you might be thinking I'm being a little bit stingy with my powder, but despite what a lot of people think, yachts don't necessarily have unlimited budgets, so we've got to make this stuff go as far as we can, and then, of course, if we need more, we'll purchase more to do the rest of the windows that are left. I shall now add a little bit of water, and then using a glove I shall stir it all in, make sure it's all nicely mixed up, and there we have it. And as I say, the way I've been using it, it's been more of a milky substance, A, because I don't want to go too aggressive on the windows, but B, because it'll last a little bit longer. That way we'll see how we go. We'll see if we need to purchase some more later down the line. It is now then simply a case of dabbing the sponge into the solution and applying it onto the window using a circular motion. Happily, I haven't found any problems with it staining any of the trim around the windows. Not such a problem here, this is just a painted aluminium, but elsewhere we've got the rubber sealant all around, and fortunately it hasn't stained any of that, it's just washed off nice and easily. I'm now going to carry on with the bottom half of this window, and I'll pop you inside, you can watch what I'm doing from there. I'm not applying too much pressure, instead just letting the product work for me. Now you'll notice that because of the solution we used, the product has stayed quite wet on the window. Other areas where I've needed to use a little bit more powder, where I've needed to be a little bit more aggressive, it actually starts to dry out and turns back into a powder, almost like a talcum powder, which just falls away from the window. As I say, I would suggest you have a play with the product. If you don't need to use too much powder, then don't. What's the point? See if it works, wash it off, have a look. If you're not happy, then go again, use a little bit more powder. What you don't need to do is just apply more pressure with the sponge. I found that doesn't really do anything for you. You just need to keep working over the surface, nice overlapping circular motions, and eventually everything will come good. Okay then, so the instructions say that I should just rinse this away, dry it off, check the results, but I've always been a bit of an overachiever, so I'm actually going to rinse, wash, rinse and dry. As you can see, that rinses away quite easily. I find that just by wiping over it with my hand, that helps get the rest of the residue off. Now we're going to go with a quick wash with the soapy mitt. I'll actually wash the whole window because I want you to be able to see the difference between just a freshly washed window and a freshly polished and washed window. Right then, so notice the difference in the way that the water is behaving from the non-polished part of the glass to the polished part of the glass. Whereas on the top half, the water continues to sit in the little mineral deposits that have already built up on the glass. On the bottom half, where it's been polished, it's just a nice single sheet. The water is not pooling in any one area. Okay then, so that's all dried up, and I must say I'm really happy with that. All of those watermarks are gone, and as you can see, the water is just running off in a nice sheet. However, I want to go one step further and actually protect this window. In time, I think that that sheet of water may eventually start to turn into little droplets, and eventually more watermarks could start building up. It's not such an issue here, because of course we can always get to these windows, but as I say, those ones that are hard to reach, the ones that are actually impossible to get to when the yacht is underway, getting covered in salt spray or getting baked on by the sun, we want that extra layer of protection. And so that's where our friend Rain-X comes in. So the way this stuff works is it actually puts a hydrophobic layer on the glass. It doesn't bond to the glass, it just sits on top of the glass, and it basically repels the water. It will need reapplication over time. This was primarily designed for use on car windscreens, and of course wiper blades rubbing across the windscreen all of the time do eventually take this stuff off. Here we don't have any wiper blades, so I anticipate it lasting a little bit longer, but what I'm really trying to do with this stuff is buy myself more time, so that if for maybe 1 or 2 weeks during passage we can't get to those hard to reach windows, any water that goes onto the glass will just bead off rather than sticking and being difficult to remove at a later stage. Applying this stuff is super easy. Simply switch the nozzle to spray, take a nice clean rag, ensure that the surface is dry, spray onto the rag. I don't know why, but the spray pump in this bottle doesn't seem very happy. Hopefully they'll be better on other bottles. And then you just work it onto the glass using, again, a circular overlapping motion. Just a couple more things to note when using this stuff. Don't apply it when the glass is sat in direct sunlight and is really hot, because that just bakes it onto the surface, actually makes it difficult to buff off in the end. Another thing to note is that you really want to make sure that your windows are completely free of watermarks before applying this stuff, else all you're going to do is lock in those watermarks and you'll continue to see them. After a couple of minutes you'll start to see the product haze up on the glass, dry off, at which point it's time to remove it and buff it nice and clean. You'll also note that I've only done half of the glass that we polished, because I want you to see the difference between just polished and rain-exed. Cleaning off the haze and buffing up is really simple. Instructions say you can either take a dry or a damp rag. I prefer a slightly damp rag to wipe away the excess. Just think it comes off a lot easier. Nice and easy. Then, once I've gone over with the damp rag, I just either get another rag or go to a dry part of the same rag and buff off. To finish up, it's a microfiber cloth. You can really feel that's nice and smooth now. By contrast, the polished only surface, still actually quite a lot of friction there. So, as I said before, that water will eventually respond to that friction. It will pool up on the glass, and in time you'll get more watermarks. Now for my favourite part. Ooh, just glides across. Yeah. Nothing too much to see after the application of the Rain-X. Of course you can feel that super smooth, but what I really want to show you is what happens when we throw some water on it. Just as would happen with rainwater or rinse water or salt water being flicked up onto some of those hard to reach areas. You can see how that hydrophobic layer just stops the water from sitting on the glass, and instead it just runs off. It beads off. Beading. Beading. Hey, Mr. Jones, I need to speak to you about your beading. What? I just like the word beading. Now, of course, some of those beads do still remain, but to explain to you what's happening on a scientific level, that hydrophobic coating has actually made the beads ball up. And so there's actually a very small portion of the bead that is touching the glass. That is why the beads fall down the glass. There's so little of them touching the glass, there's so little friction that they just fall off. If they do sit there, there's still only a little bit of contact with the glass right on the bottom of that sphere, and as a result there is just less surface area for those mineral deposits to build up and in time etch your glass. It's important to say that acid actually breaks down the Rain-X, so you don't want to be using vinegar on your windows if you've Rain-X'd them, because all you'll do is end up breaking down that nice hydrophobic coating and it won't work anymore. So all you need to do is rinse if necessary, wash, see how the window is looking. If you need to reapply the Rain-X, as I showed you there, it's really very easy to do. Clin'Azur 210 to clean the watermarks off the glass, and Rain-X to repel the water and prevent future watermarks. If you want to see a video on how we actually get out to reach those hard to access places, check out this video here, and for any other videos about products that we use out on deck, please do check out my Super Yacht Deckhand Duty series. With respect to this video, if you got some value from it, a like would be fantastic, a sub would be amazing. I want to wish you all a very happy Christmas, and I very much look forward to seeing you next time.